So what we've been talking about is from the book of Ephesians, chapter 4, was talking about when a person undertake a role or responsibility for God, that they ought to take that serious, and that it should be a work that they do faithfully, and no matter what, that person ought to have the spirit of humility. James chapter 1, have the spirit of humility as well. Paul urges them in the church at Ephesus to say, hey, whatever you're doing for God, check this statement out what I'm getting ready to make. Whatever you're doing for God, make it look like God is doing it. Whatever you're doing for God, make it look like God is doing it. That makes us check our hearts. That makes us check our motives and our intents. Why am I really engaged? So what we're wanting people to experience above all else, Brother Jeff, they leave a check for you to sign through Ministry of Kindness? You got that? Okay, good deal. All right. Let me, and make it look like God, what you're doing. What we want to do, we don't want to expose people to us alone. We want them to understand that God is working through us, but more than anything, it's God that's working. Y'all follow what I'm saying? So that's what Paul is trying to encourage us in chapter 4 to understand. Look at how he say it. He says there's one faith, one Lord, and one baptism. All things that we do ought to come together. You can have your own opinion, but your opinion should not override God's will. We can be different in thoughts, and we're going to be that, but everything that we do for the kingdom need to come together. In other words, you don't build a camp over here, I don't build a camp over here, somebody else building a camp back there, and we're all calling ourselves Cathedral. Amen. Amen. Whatever we're doing need to be accomplishing the mission for the church and accomplishing the will of God. Are we together so far? He gives some pastors, apostles, and teachers, evangelists, for the edifying or for the perfecting of the saints. God has given us persons whom he has called in those capacities to help us to grow. You don't have to always like the messenger, but don't you throw away your food because somebody brought your food in a plastic bag and not paper. You follow what I'm saying? I have learned as an adult, even children can tell you things that God wants you to know. They'll call you out, like tell you, mama, that ain't true. You know it ain't true. So kids will call you out on things. God will help you. God will use people for the perfecting of the saints. Why is God even interested in us being perfected? Because God wants our every effort to be our best show. Ain't no glory in it for you or me, but it's glory for God. Am I making sense? So Paul talks about this in Ephesians. He's talking about this working together, talking about us coming together, understanding that it's the will of God that we grow, and we grow in the right direction. One Lord, one faith, one baptism. He talks about the other thing, I can't remember. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. But this where I'm going with all this is leading to James chapter 1. When we were moving into James chapter 1, James started out talking to us about the fact that he is a servant. And the next thing that James says after being a servant of Christ, he says this: count it all joy when you enter into diverse temptation. What James is saying, check your attitude, even when bad things are happening. Even when things are happening that you do not want to happen, check your attitude. Because I want you to know that attitude is so very important and help to determine how we will go forward. Sometimes we can't, because of a bad attitude. I was saying this, you know, some people can really get you out of a bad situation. And you know you've been crying to God, God, please get me out of this mess. I've been suffering for 10 years. The attitude of the person that God sends in to help you will sometimes help you say, you know what, I'd rather stay here than let you help me. I know I'm telling the truth. There are some of us that have really just gone without because we didn't like the attitude of the person that stopped by. Well, I'm going to loan you $50, but I'm going to tell you this, you know. You say, you know what, ho. Stretch it. I'd just rather go ahead on and wait and see if they're going to approve my EBT card and apply for Medicaid. I'd just rather wait. You know that's a long process. Yeah, but I'd just rather go ahead on and wait. I'd rather than take this from you. Because people don't want the whipping. They want the help. And I think that's, even when we go into temptation, I think that we have to realize that we gotta quit our sobbing and realize that, listen, the devil is after something. It's in the next verse. He talks about that it is the trying of your faith. The devil does not want you to believe that God can do anything except be an absent father. Well, where's God when my mama was sick? Where's God when I was going through this? And where was God when he's just an absent father? The devil doesn't want you to have the confidence that God is able, capable of doing anything he wills to do. But the issue is, he know it, you struggling with it. And he doesn't want you to have the confidence in God, because really what it's all about is that James says that I'm a servant of Christ. And we have to realize that we are all servants of God. And we don't get to pick which restaurant all the time. Sometimes you have to realize that God will put you in the most challenging places. Not for somebody else, but for you. Sometimes we need to grow. Sometimes we need to mature. Sometimes we need to be strengthened. And sometimes God will put you in a place or allow you. Let me see. God will allow you in a place so that your eyes can be open. Yeah, say that. Everybody, I'm going to tell you this. Everybody, from the sermon I preached Sunday, everybody is not going to have the same thing. There will always be people in this world that will have more than you, and you will always have more than somebody else. That's reality. So while you complaining about what you ain't got, be thankful for what you have. Because there are other people that wish they were in your place. Am I making sense? There'll always be some people saying, man, I wish I had it like you had. And you know, people say, ooh, if I had your hand. I told them, you had mine, you probably cut them all. Because once you realize what these hands got, you could probably say, man, had I known this, you call for the doctors, amputate. But we have to realize that, and this is just kind of tagging from last week in the sermon and bringing us here, that the 5, 2, and 1, all of us we will all have something. But not the same thing. Somebody's going to have more than you have, and you're going to have more than somebody else. Okay.
The same thing that you're saying, Pastor, is the same thing our children need to know. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The house I was in could not provide everything. But I knew of some houses at the same age I was, they had way less than I had. And when we give our children everything, they think it's how it always goes. But there's a house where they might not be able to get anything. And they will somebody else would be prepared to get their spot if they could.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I'm going to tell you this right here too. I forgot what I was getting ready to tell you. Shucks. I said I'm getting ready to tell you this here too. About the children. Yeah. This is what I was getting ready to tell you. And some of them grow up that way, and they get in their own house and realize, ding dong, It happened to me. When I went to college, had my own apartment, fooled around and got a car. I love the idea that I bought a car. But I found out, man, mama ain't said nothing about tires got to be bought, oil got to be changed, gas got to be put in it, car got to be tuned up. Man, when all those things start falling in my care, I'm like, man, I missed a whole lot. Because mama took care of all those things. She might say, run the car over here. I'm so stupid, I just run it over there and stand around. I ain't know what they were doing. But I'm going to tell you what it taught me, though. I learned how to work on my own car. Because I could not afford to go to mechanics and go to other folk. I remember living right over here off of Woodrow Wilson. I don't know the name of that street now. Jan, what's the street name I used to live on over there? Who? Vardaman is what I used to say. In case y'all didn't know, Jan and I sort of went to high school together. We knew each other in college. And every now and again, she would stop by the house and see if we needed some food or cook or something, whatever. Then, you know, you go tell your mom. Don't tell your mom. But anyway, in Vardaman, I remember being in college and working. And some Saturdays, I would work on other people's cars. Just from the little stuff I learned. But I wasn't working on their cars because they were my friends. Man, I was trying to keep up. Trying to stay ahead. And kids don't realize it. They get their own house, they realize that, dog, man, I had it made at my mama's house. I don't want to go back, but I had it made over there. I mean, all I had to say, Mama, I want to go to the game. Mama like, there you go, the keys. I never looked at the gas hand. I ain't never looked at no tire to check it. Mama did all that. But anyway, we don't know how good we had it. Wesley, you can say something. Push.
You said something Sunday that I thought should have been said a long time. You said, go home and forgive your parents. I love when you said that.
Yeah.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
Because we holding our parents hostages on old something that didn't happen when we lived.
Man, I remember being, I don't know, 9th grade or 10th grade. My mama lost her job. She's worked for Madison Furniture. And not Madison Furniture. It was another place. I can't think of the name of it. Can't remember. In fact, it closed down. Whatever the name of the place was, some little place. It closed down. My mom was unemployed. Man, we went from coming to Sears and J.C. Penney's up in the Medical Mall. It was the Jackson Mall then. And we were doing pretty good clothes-wise. And man, we went from that to garage sales. We went from going to the malls to garage sales. And shoot, man, I didn't know that garage sale was that good. but man, when school time came, man, we hit the garage sale. We went to the cleaners, or we got that starch. And y'all don't know about the starch y'all mix spray. Man, you press your stuff to be ready for school. And people didn't know where I would get my clothes from. I couldn't tell them. Well, I could have told them, but I didn't want to tell them. But I made sure, though, when I stepped out of the house, I was going to be clean, coordinated, whatever. That's life. Things won't always be as you're going to have a downhill and an uphill and all that. All right. Somebody else getting ready to say something? Brother Jefferson, what you getting ready to say something? Oh, you are. I saw your hand moving. I thought you was up. All right. Where am I? Oh, we were talking about that fact that the 2, 5, and 1. But we have to realize that, I want to make this point. Wesley was talking about forgiving parents. Because sometimes we really don't understand that parents have done the best they could. In a lot of instances, they've done the best that they could. You know, and I think, man, the little bit that we did with our kids, I think we kind of messed them up. Some. I really do. You want to give them more than you had. You want to create more than you had. But I think, man, that somehow we messed them up a little bit.
I did too. I won't speak by yourself.
No, I think we did. Yeah. I think, you know. I think they got a lot of privileges and a lot of things. And, you know, I went through high school. I ain't never had no cell phone. College, you know. Yeah, but anyway. So, Jesus calling somebody. Make sure he ain't calling me. Don't put my phone on silent. Anyway, he says, let me go. James, servant of God, of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes of Israel scattered abroad, my brother, count it out joy when you fall into diverse temptation. James says, check your attitude. Knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. And I wrote up here that the devil is after your faith. He doesn't want you to trust God and believe in God. He don't want you to understand that God is with you even when it seems like God is not. It's for the trying. I think, did he say for the trying? For the trying of your faith. Trying of your faith. Have you ever told your child, try me? Try me if you want to. It's for the trying of your faith. God wants us to grow. And he allows those things that help us to grow. Because faith has to be developed and strengthened. You don't need but a little bit. But with that little bit of faith, you can have the confidence that, man, God can do everything. He says this, but let patience have her perfect work or complete work, that you may be perfect and entire and wanting nothing. Let me tell you, don't be anxious for nothing. God will always come when God's supposed to come. We look at this 24 hours, but God is on an eternity scale. Amen. His clock ain't synchronized. He doesn't sync his time to ours. We have to sync our time to his. Y'all ever heard this song, I waited for a long time? Waited for the Lord to come and see about me. Y'all ever heard this song? You ever heard this song? Huh? It's been a minute. I waited for a long time. I waited for the Lord God Almighty. I waited for a long time. Waited for the Lord to come and see about me. Okay. Maybe that was in Alabama when they were singing it. I used to pastor a church that was in the boondocks in Alabama. So anyway, our attitude in our faith, knowing that, listen, the devil knows that he cannot stop God or block God, but he can make you become distracted from God. He can take your focus away. So he says, be careful when you fall into diverse temptation. Count it all joy. I'm not going to say to you that let no man say when he's tempted that he's tempted by God, because God doesn't tempt us. We make decisions, or we have appetites that will lead us into temptation. Cravings, so to speak. But you can know that your past tells God's history. When you look back, you ought to be able to see God's hand in your life. And when you understand the hand of God, you can see the will of God. God doesn't intend for us to be in these poor mouth predicaments. That's the word my big mama would use, poor mouth. Predicaments, poor mouthing, complaining, whining, grumbling, and such and so on. But God wants us to have the confidence that no matter what I'm in, he's with me, and God is going to pull me through it. I can be sick, God is with me. I can be broke, God is with me. Listen to Jesus. Give us now our daily bread. Jesus is not concerned about mounted bank accounts. God will take care of us every day. You don't have to have mounted bank accounts. It's good to have them, you know, but guess what? Even if you don't, God knows how to take care of us. I did not want everything that mama cooked, but mama said, don't you say there's no food in this house. Now, I ain't want everything that was in the refrigerator. There's always something there for the triangle of your faith. Wesley.
What's the difference between temptation and testing?
Temptation really has to do with something that the flesh wants. Yeah. Something that, that the flesh wants, that can often be a tool for devouring or destruction. Testing could be an example of revelation. I can be tested. It can be for development, for growth. So temptation can be like teasing. Test can be resolve to understand, God will help you pass it. You walk away with a lesson. I guess you can with temptation too, walk away with a lesson. But
look, some people say God tested me. They say God tempted me.
I'm gonna tell you that language I've learned to be very careful about. Because James says, let no man that is tempted say that God has tempted him. I don't think that God has to put us in a predicament to get our attention. Some people have said, man, God put me on my back. Did God put you on your back, or was it the choices you made that put you on your back?
Right. Choice.
And while you landed on your back and not a grave, did God show you that even on your back, I can stand you back up? So I think we have to be very careful about how we express or articulate when we're trying to describe God. One of the things that I tell people, and we had this exercise, people say, God is just like your earthly father. Well, a lot of our earthly father experiences ain't. You don't want to tell them that God is like that. You don't want to leave people with the imagery either that God is a sugar daddy. So we have to be very careful. God will take care of us because he loves us. But don't think that God going to ignore the fact that we were way out in left field Saturday at 6 o'clock, and at 8 o'clock we're going to come in here and we're going to throw our hands up like this, and God's going to forget all that over there. And we're going to manipulate him because our hands are up. No. God is much wiser than that. He knows our uprising and our downfall. He knows our going in and our coming out. We're not going to, I don't care how dark it is, we can't hide from God. So I'm very careful about the use of that language. I think that God allows, God arranges, and God aligns. And some people say, well, what does that really mean? I think that God opens opportunities and God opens spaces and so forth. But to say that is God only way of getting my attention is to put me on a bed of sickness, terminally ill? No. God can speak. Often when they came to the mountain, all it took was a little smoke, and they would say, wait a minute, Moses. No, don't let him say a word. Talk to us. We don't want to hear God's voice. Talk to us, Moses. And God was getting ready to talk. And the earth shook and the mountains smoked. And when God didn't speak, it says that the mountains clapped their hands. I just made that up. But it does use figurative language. But anyway, I'm just kind of very careful about that. I try to be very conscious that when we say that, well, God tested me. I think that God can use that test to say, hey, look at this. Because I'm discovering that in our hardship and our difficulties, and even in our good times, that God used that to reveal to us who we are. That we're stronger, we're better than, we're much more than we give ourselves credit for. We really have more strength than we want to know. You know. And women are very strong. Anyone that have birthed a child, that ain't easy. Labor pains ain't easy. Because I've been told, shut up, don't talk to me. Because they were going through some pain. Anyway. No. Come on, I'm just joking.
It's been a minute since I read that patients have heard before.
Mm-hmm.
I often wondered why did he mention patience as a
It's kind of like a gender preference, isn't it? I don't know. Let's look, can we look at gender? What do you think? Well, give me something. Just throw me an idea.
I will say you can catch more women or more patient than men. But that just kind of stuck out.
More women are patient than men?
Yeah. I mean, I really.
Who there was a witness? Women are more patient than men? I disagree with that. Okay, why do we have the Bible I need is on my shelf in the office. And it's an original Hebrew, Miss Carr. Do you see a hardcover brown Bible back there? It's going to say Hebrew and Greek Bible. Sometimes she'll leave it. It's right there where Deontay them on. It's usually there if she didn't take it home. But that Bible gives you the Greek, why the emphasis are on the gender sometimes, masculine or feminine use of. I can't help you with that off the top of my head unless I'm looking at that book, you know. And maybe I should let you borrow it and research it and then bring us the answer back. That'll be a good idea. But
I just never just really dug into see why patience was labeled as good.
what is a he? Just name me something that he describes as a he. So courage would be a he. And bravery a he.
It's strength.
Strength is a he. Valor is a he.
Yeah. Victorious.
Vigilant is a he.
Yeah. Keep going, brother. You almost preached it.
So patience is a she.
So are you saying patience is gentle?
It's like when you're looking
I'm-
So everything throughout this while goes on a masculine level.
That's how you heard it.
That's how it was presented.
Patience.
All you heard was, yeah.
What about patience?
Y'all ain't saying a word. Yeah, one blessing.
I got patience. I got patience.
associated with war, so those strong terminologies, I think, are more related.
All right. Let that be my assignment for next week to look at that. Yes. Perhaps.
Patience, wisdom are equal to the fruits of the Spirit. Because when we look at the fruits of the Spirit,
Is that in Galatians? Y'all know them? I don't know them. They in chapter 5. Corner 1. No, it ain't no corner 1. It's in 22. It says, love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. Fruit of the Spirit.
there's nothing there that we would refer to as masculine.
In the fruit of the Spirit? Man, it has to be. Long suffering. That's what men are. Something like. Huh? I said that out loud. Okay, let's go back over to James. That's my homework. Text me and remind me. I'll look that up because the book is on my desk. On my bookshelf. It says that let patience have her complete work, that you may be perfect and entire. Patience, or the allowing of working with patience, it benefits us. Be anxious for nothing. If you lack wisdom, let him ask God. Why he say let him ask her? Since wisdom is a her. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask God. He gives to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given to him. You giving who some of the wisdom? God? Let me tell you something. Ain't nobody got nothing that God didn't give. And if God gave you something, he was intended for you to share it. So it's just like a scared woman standing behind a courageous man. God gave you that man that you stand behind it courageously. Everybody in here got a man. A man got a man. His name is Christ. Jesus, God, our Father. Thank you. So, let him ask. This is what I want to get to. Let him ask in faith. Nothing wavering. For he that is wavering is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. So don't let that man think he shall receive anything from God. You can't be in and out, on board, off board. Faith says be consistent. Be consistent. All right? Now back to this wisdom. If anybody lack wisdom, don't go hunting no woman. Let him ask God. I just want to be clear. You got it, Brenda Thorne? Huh? That's what I just said. If anybody want wisdom, don't go running after no woman for it. Go after God. Let him ask God. Oh, don't go run to no man either. Okay, I got you now. I thought there was a tug of war kind of thing you trying to set up. No. God is the source of all of our resources. That's the point I want to make. I don't know if I said it when I started out in my prologue, but I really want us to understand that James is pointing us that our eyes look at God and that our faith will be continually developed in God. If any man lack wisdom, let him ask God. He gives it liberally. God gives liberally. God gives in overflow kind of ways. All right? He says this, he upbraideth not, he shall give to them. Let them ask in faith. Let me tell you something. Faith means I ask God because I know God can do it. That's what faith says. You may have heard me preach this once. If you don't think that God can do it, don't ask him. But if you ask him, trust him that he will do it. It's crazy for you to ask God for something and the UPS drops it off. And you look at the box and say, well, I don't know what to do with this box. I'm not going to open that box. Y'all remember Fred Fox? That man brought him a package, said it for Fred Fox. He said, Red Fox said, what's in it? How I know what's in it? You got to open it. What I'm opening it for? Red Fox tried to say, well, if there's anything in there like a bill or a debt, You open it. I won't open it. But anyway. Yeah. So here's the thing. When we come to God, believe that God can do what we're asking him to do. And if we say that there's nothing too difficult for God, truly it's nothing too difficult for God. God does not always answer when we want him to and how we want him to. But God does always answer. Yes, no, and not right now. He always answers. And I'm going to tell you something. When God say no, don't you go jumping on no fast. God's yes and no are equivalently the same volume. We don't want to accept a no. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment about one of the prophets in the Old Testament.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the kings, one of the prophets,
Hezekiah.
blessed him against the people of God.
I don't know that
And
one.
he was kept going, went to God and prayed, and God had told him no over and over. Then God told him, he kept on worrying God about it. God told him to go ahead. But on his way down that path, there was an angel standing with a sword, ready to chop his head off. His mule, the only one that saw the angel, and he was kept throwing him up against the brick, stopping him because the mule didn't want to get his head cut off. You don't know that story.
I'm just listening to you tell it.
Yes, I mean, I'm just sharing that.
Right.
About asking God for something, he tell you no.
Right. Let me tell you a better story. Not a better story, but another story that I'm more familiar with. You read that recently since I read it. Oh. God did not desire Israel to have a king. But Israel looked at the rest of the world and said, we want what they got. And God said, no, 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 no. So they even went to God and said, we want Saul. God said, no, Saul, no, no, no. And eventually God said, okay. But it was against God's will. He allowed it. And that's why Israel went through the torment that they went through, because they chose Saul. Not because Saul was good for them, but because they wanted what the world had. So give us a king. No. Then came along David, a king after God's heart. David was God's choice. So even when we mess up, God has a setup for the mess up. Let's get back on track. Let's do it with David, though. So even when Samuel came looking for the king, he was looking at the outer appearance, and God says, no, man, that's not how I choose. I don't look at the external, I look at the internal. So even with choosing people and God, choosing people is always, it has always been a heart issue. That's what I'm trying to say. I had to slow down. A heart issue. A heart issue. A or an? A. Thank you. If it starts with an A-E-I-O-U, it's sometimes why? Okay. I'm hearing myself. What you laughing at, Sandra? You said something. What you tickle at?
In English and everything. Just going to school, all kind of way. You doing great.
I'm not going to accept that as a compliment. I refuse to. Can I tell you what happens? What happens is I hear myself and I try to correct my grammar. So, so I try to fix it before I get too far. But anyway, stuff I should work on at home. Thank you. But anyway, back to the story. But yes, God does. Hezekiah prayed because God sent word through the prophet Elijah, said, get your house in order today. You're sure to die. And he said, no, man. And when the prophet got to the court, he sent it back and said, hey, tell Hezekiah, I honor his request. But them last 14 years of Hezekiah, man, I don't know if he wanted them or not. Some of it was good, but it was bad. Had some bad times as well. All right. 1 minute till 7:30. I'm going to stop right there. I stopped at verse number 7. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. A man that goes back and forth, indecisive, is where I read in one translation. An indecisive man is unstable. Now, wonder why God used a man rather than a person. Because I ain't figured out yet how a woman start out at Belk, in Penny's, in Dillard's, and all the stores in between. In the very first store she started out at is where she ends up at. And then it's the color, and then it's this, and it's that. A man gonna go get a pair of brown shoes, his size, he gone. I know this man will say, wherever you paying. I don't care where I eat, as long as I'm fed. All right, I was just joking, y'all. Indecisive. But there was one translation that did say an indecisive man is unstable in all of his ways. So we're going to stop there. All right.